so today I'm supposed to talk about fear and loathing, and I can't remember what the other words I was using. So I thought I would start with, and I don't I have no skill with my hair. I thought I'd start talking about fear and loathing. So, as you probably know, Jamie Whitcomb worked with me for 3 years, and just not only was she delightful to work with, but she was so fucking smart and diligent that she just made my life wonderful. And so when she told me, like at the beginning, I think it was when I got back from, no, it was when I was in Australia, because I think she'd made the decision and just didn't feel like she could not say, you know, that broken up relationships that way. So she actually told me like in May, and she did not leave until the end of August because she is Jamie and would never have left me in the lurch. So let's just say I was, I wanted all the best for her, felt very sorry for myself. And, we just continued to work and make plans for her leaving so that she felt that she had left me as well situated as possible, which of course she did. But we've been working on the pattern tailor for the 3 years, or let's say 2 years of the 3 years she worked for me. And her Excel skills were pretty excellent, much further along than mine. Plus that she, from her PhD, she had all kinds of math skills that I don't have. I could tell her what I wanted to do and explain how I would go about doing it, but I didn't really feel that, I didn't know how you go about it. I've learned a lot about math since she came into my life. But when she left, I felt like, well, what if I can't do the pattern tailor? I mean, she's been doing all the work, and the work has gotten much more sophisticated than what I was doing. And although I understand all the components that go into it, what if I just can't do it? Because I'm not that smart. I'm smart. I'm not as smart as she is. And so I did what I usually do when I am fearful about something, and I put off doing anything with it. I used to have things on my to-do list, say, open a pattern tailor file, and I couldn't make myself do it because I was pretty scared. But she left me videos. She left me excellent documentation, which I taught her to do. And we had several sample projects that I could go to and see how she'd done things. So the thing that really terrified me was the logic, because I don't follow a clear path to things. And I was just like, oh shit, how am I going to do this? How am I going to figure it out? So I made myself, after the first of the year, I made myself open one of the files and kind of poked around and saw that, like, I recognized almost everything. And I totally understood the JSON code that we have to use with the PHP and how that was written. So I felt pretty good, but there's a lot of logic statements in there now. And I'm not that logical. So I've been kind of poking at, I have a file called Practice Berkshires, and I've been poking at that because I'm releasing this pattern on the 13th of March, and I've set up the whole pattern so that it's in the pattern tailor. I haven't figured out different sizes. So I've, made myself most days do some little thing so that I am pretty good at taking, the string of Excel code that she's written and putting it into text, and then I can see how things go together by pushing at different cells and like that. So I'm not as confident as I could be, but I feel pretty good about my abilities to do this going forward, and I will get better as I do more of this. So I'm almost ready. My pattern is back from the tech editor. Oh yeah, the pattern delivery system. I'll get to that. So there's a step in the pattern tailor process where you have to turn your document into a fillable field, which is a complete pain in the ass. And the one thing that I wanted the pattern tailor to be able to do is to create pages that you can print. It is a huge step, and I'm partly talking about it because I really want to give myself credit for finally braving through, and as with anything we don't want to do, we put it off, and so then you have the comfort of a deadline to make it happen. So the fillable forms are just a complete pain in the ass to do, and I just got done rewatching her video to make sure that as I do it, I'm doing it right. And I have another little calculator that I'm moving from being a calculator on my website into the pattern tailor. It will be free. It's just that I can't find a table creator that will work on my website that is easy for me to learn. And so since I'm already learning the pattern tailor, we're doing it there. And it'll be a good way for people to become accustomed to the pattern tailor, which seems really scary, but it's not. So I have this short calculator form that I can use to test everything. So I was just putting the fillable fields into that. And, back to the printer issue. So the one thing the pattern tailor cannot do is print your pattern. And so that's all I care about because I work from paper. And I don't care how you guys using a device are faring. I want paper. So I sometimes use my device, but my default is paper. And I have created a stack 3/4 of an inch tall. I actually measured it of scratch paper getting this ready. So one of the great things about the PDF, once the pattern tailor has created it, is you can print the pages that you want. You don't have to print the whole thing. So if you like your charts on your device, but you want the written instructions, blah, blah, blah. So I've got this short form that I can test my fillable fields out. But Owen, the PHP guy, figured out that the reason it's not printing is because of how we labeled the text fields in the fillable form. And so I have figured out what I think is a good workaround that isn't too big a pain in the butt. And so we're going to try that out. Maybe tomorrow because today is coming to an end. So anyhow, that's giving me a little confidence that I figured out this paper thing or a way around it. And it's apparently like a known flaw in Adobe or in PDFs that if there's multiple fields using the same name in your downloadable and fillable PDF, that it won't print. Um, so many things. I have to say, I am on one hand enjoying learning this and kind of conquering it, and I feel really good about myself. On the other hand, I hate it. So the other thing that happened today, kind of, I didn't know about it. I belong to, or I am part of a group that Kate Gilbert has. You pay for it, and it's called Study Hall. And so she often, I think, like the first Friday of the month, was this the first Friday? I guess it's the third Friday of the month. She will do a presentation, and usually on the first Friday it's just a work session, and um, but you can ask her questions, and she's really good on Google, whatever it is, Sheets, and so people are doing things on that she can help them with, and she's just a great cheerleader. So today was a first Friday. So it was supposed to be a study hall, just a work session, but she had decided that we all need to start creating SOPs, standards of procedure. um, and this has been on my list for like 2 or 3 years of things that I want to do, because I know that once I write out the steps, that it makes it so much easier, because then I just know, like, I do this and I do this and I do this. So that's what I was watching the video of Jamie doing the fillable forms so that I could write out the order of to do things. I, of course, changed it a little bit. So I wrote one for my bookkeeping today, which, it took longer than I would like, but now I've got a form that I can use to create others. Hi, Ross. I'm not familiar with you, but welcome. Um, so I had written kind of a procedure for a step in using the pattern tailor, and it was just like that to create the SOP. So you just like, first you do this, and then you do this, and you need these documents, and here's the links to get, download them, and blah, blah, blah. But it's so good to have that. And so I will be doing more of that, because, and for those of you who have been like in the yarn business, like as a designer, I have a style sheet that my tech editor uses. So that's an SOP, just in a different form. So I have to update my style sheet, because on Tuesday I decided that I was throwing my current pattern delivery system out the window, and I was going to make something new because really I have a deadline, so why not? And using the pattern tailor is just a little more complex than just downloading a pattern. And I've also been really thinking about how a lot of the information that you get in your pattern, you really want before you get the pattern. And because the pattern tailor needs you to input data, you need to be able to make your swatch and make some other decisions before you actually go to input the information. And while it doesn't save it, so you have to do it all at once, it kind of saves it. Like if you start it and you leave it open on your computer and you go off and come back later, it'll still be there. But if you shut down that screen, it's gone. Your information is gone. So you have to put it in all at once. So But I've also been thinking, like, as we try to be more inclusive about sizing and things, people need to see a schematic. Um, they may need to see, like, how much yarn that sample took so that they can compare and figure out what they might need for their size. And um, I, of course, want everybody to make a swatch, because then the data that they give through the pattern tailor will be much more accurate. So I decided that I would just put everything into a document that will be downloadable for free up to the pattern. And then the pattern you have to pay for, and it allows you to use the pattern tailor. So I had to, like, pull things into different orders, but I was able to remove some duplication, and my tech editor even helped me find a couple of other things I could get rid of, um, to make it less complicated for me, because of course I'm the one who has to do all the work. So I am pretty excited about that. And I have written myself extensive notes, but I still have to figure out. So, like, how can you download it if you're on Ravelry? And so, do I have to how can I make two things? Yeah, I'll figure it out. It's no worries. But, and then, like, if it's in PayHip, it's totally easy, because they basically just duplicate the stuff that I've got on my website. Ravelry has their own system, and then Lovecrafts, which I also use for VAT, has like a completely different system. And so, what I can offer, I'll have to adjust my thinking as I go. And I'm only really interested in conquering Ravelry before the 13th. The others can wait. So it will be available on my website. Obviously, that's my preference, that you purchase there. And I will figure out how to do it on Ravelry, because I know that's where a lot of people still buy. And I'm going to check with Knit Companion to see if they want to try out this new thing. So anyhow, I've got, the pattern delivery system has changed. I have conquered, semi-conquered. Yeah, that's a good idea. Oh, you can do it through PayHip, through Ravelry. Because, see, I can put up the free part on Ravelry, but then I can't have a second thing with the same name. Oh, and sorry, Reen typed a note that said, I still have my patterns indexed on Ravelry, so you can find them in your search, but the only way to purchase is to click on the PayHip link. Good idea. So, yeah, there's all these other little doodads that have to be figured out as you go through your process. And I'm also releasing this with the yarn company, so, like, all of that has to be coordinated. In the meantime, so I wish I could remember the 4 words that I'd used. I know it was fear and loathing, and then something else, but that's helpful. This is the problem of working really hard all day, and these damn meetings on Fridays start at 9, which means that I have to get up and get my butt in gear. And I don't normally talk to people until 10, so it's a little bit of a stretch for me. So anyhow, first thing you have to do when you become overwhelmed by something or you're loathing something is to kind of bring it into your attention. So that's what was happening when I kept putting it on my list and not doing anything, was kind of giving myself an opportunity to process my fear and learning and execution. Thank you. I knew Rain would come through. Were you I know you did something in a library. Were you an archivist? I'm writing it down. Yeah, she's very detail oriented. Reen is. So once you kind of can get over interlibrary loan supervisor. Yeah, but do you have a library degree? My mom was a reference librarian. I don't think you learn, you become a specialized librarian in library school. I think you learn it all. And then, oh, well, see, you have the skills that librarians have, but interlibrary loan, she did that for a while. BA in linguistics and BS in geography. Ooh, I'm reading a really great book. I've got another book that I'll send you the link to. I love geography. Am crap at language. Anyhow, so you got to get over your fear and loathing or find a way to conquer them. So one of the things that I did when I finally said, okay, you're going to have to do this, was I started watching the videos that Jamie had made for me. My mom was actually a language major in her undergraduate. She went back and got her library degree when I think I was in the 5th grade. And they being my parents, realized that families were going to need 2 incomes. So she went back to school, and at that point would have been the 60s, and the state of Washington needed librarians, and they paid for her to go to library school and gave her a part-time job. She'd been working at the library doing said interlibrary loan. And so she went back and got her master's, but her true love was language. And she lived in Hawaii for a while, and she really focused on how the language is used. And wherever she traveled, she was always finding out how people used language. She had originally, because I love a tangent, apparently, I did not find this out until she was in her 90s. She had wanted to be a translator at the United Nations. And so she had studied French and Spanish, and degrees were not that sophisticated back in the 40s. And when she took the tests, her speaking language skills was not good enough. And I was when I heard her telling somebody that, I felt so bad for her, and how she'd probably held that all of her life, that she wasn't good enough to do the thing that she really wanted to do. Anyhow, so learning is a key component to when you're having fear, is what can you learn? And this is where our friends, search engines, or our local library, can help us, because I needed to know how to do something in Excel. It seemed like there had to be a function for doing it. I just wanted my number was 19.625. I needed to find out how many inches was in 0.625 of a yard. And, I can figure it out. I know how to do that, but I need to tell the calculator to do that. So, and I didn't want to type it in because I want it to work regardless. I could put in 0.625, but then the calculator is just going to give you that. So I have to put in things so that they work with any number that somebody puts in, and or restrict within some restricted, the UN. And so since I learned that, I've been really interested in people who do translations. And I have another little tangent, but let me finish my other thought. So I just go out online, and there's a million things on Excel. So I found out the function that I needed, and it worked. So that was cool. It was easy to type in. So kind of, I'm not good at just learning things. I like to learn things that I'm applying. And so, I get someplace where I need an answer, and then I go off and find it. And I will say that I think language, that was a nice segue, is a key that's really a barrier, because tech people speak a different language than English speakers. And so finding the right thing to get your question answered can just make you crazy. I was having a problem with my publishing software. And, it's one of those things like, I know there's an answer. I have looked all through the 250-page PDF trying to find it. I can't find it. I get on the forum to ask the question, and I ask the wrong question, which leads to a bunch of mansplaining, because they got to tell some girl that she's stupid. And finally got to someone who consistently answers my question in a thoughtful and non-mansplaining manner, although he is a man. So Reen had said, I think you basically have to be as good as a native speaker for the UN. And I think that's true. So what was the other tangent? In 2008, just prior to the markets crashing, I went on a trip with a yarn company to Turkey. It was actually with Universal Yarn. And they were working on a new line of yarn, and they needed me to help them figure out how you put together a line. And it was a fabulous trip. We didn't go any place but Istanbul, and then across the whatever that sea is named to Bursa, which is where their factories are. And Hal is a very proud Turkish person, whatever you call them. And he was so excellent at doing like contemporaneous translation, so that somebody else could be speaking and he would be like almost simultaneously saying what they were saying. So it made my experience really rich. And one of the things that we did was we went to, they called it a school, a knitting school, but it was really a bunch of Turkish women who came to this like community center, but it was privately run, and they knitted. And so they were constantly knitting samples. But they did it just like by looking at the pictures. They didn't really read the directions, which I was objected to. But we got to go and meet these women, and so it was there's a lot of poverty, and that was in Istanbul, I think, um, and it was in a poorer neighborhood, and it's Muslim, so women have restricted activities that they can do, and in Turkey, which is fairly liberal, or was at that point, it kind of depended upon your family as to what you could do. So many of these women could not hold a job, but also their husbands did not have a job. And so they could go and do this knitting for Universal Yarn and the company that they work with over there and get paid. And it wasn't against what their spouses would let them do. Um, and there were also people who just, wanted to hang out and knit and maybe did it for the money, but didn't have the same religious restrictions. So we got to talk to them because Hal could do this incredible translation. And it was just like one of the most heartwarming things because we all loved the same thing. And, Americans have a really different approach to it. But they felt so much pride and it was great. So, anyhow, that's that little tangent. Execution. So, there is nothing like execution to uphold your learning, and to help you get over your fear. So, I've been doing this a long time. I was pretty comfortable with giving myself a deadline to work to and figuring I'd pull it out of my ass somehow. Um, but you don't have to make it kind of that public. You can do something that, you just say, like, by the end of the week, I'm going to figure out how to extract those 3 decimal points from a number that Excel has spit out for me. Whatever it is, or I'm going to sit down and learn Jill's flexible longtail cast on because she puts it in every freaking thing she does. So it must be as fabulous as she thinks it is. And I'm just going to cast on my next thing using her flexible longtail cast on. Or I am going to buy the horizontal bust start calculator from Jill and her pattern tailor so that I can put a bust start in my next sweater. So I think acknowledging that you don't just want to learn something, you just don't want to read about it, you want to act on it, and kind of setting yourself up so that you can accomplish that. I will say that, so I don't know what made me decide to change my pattern delivery system. I've been picking at that for, you need a reason. Reen says you need a reason to learn the thing. Otherwise, why learn it? We have plenty of distractions. Here's another thing that's interesting. I quit going on Facebook and Instagram, and I have a lot more time. I don't think I was a huge user, but it's just like my brain isn't kind of being pulled in by those. No more cat videos for me, which is good. I don't need to look at cat videos. And I just do it when I get overwhelmed or frustrated. And there are other things I can do. So the pattern delivery system, or PDS as I'm calling it, is the result of me mulling some of this over for years. And Reen has her own cat who, as I recall, you were adopted by that cat. So she was a semi-feral cat when Reen got her. She is no longer. She is a queen. So, like I've always got this little voice in the back of my head saying, this isn't really what people want, Jill. Why are you doing it? And, I hate to say how long it took me to just say, okay, screw it. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to remake my pattern delivery system. But I have a tendency to do things like at the moment that it becomes the right moment, I just do it. And I'm like that about everything. So that's what I've got this week. Whew. It's been an exhausting week. And looking forward to my martini. Waiting for Mitch to hear. She was a stray. My neighbor picked her up and threw her in my house and slammed the door before she could get out. She was not happy at the time. Yeah, she hid for months, didn't she? Anyhow, she turned out to be a lovely cat. I am a big fan. Yes, every cat wants to be a king or a queen. My friend Nancy is adopted by cats. So it's her last 4 cats have adopted her. So she has a cat called Blackie who adopted her, and back at their home in Napa, and a few years ago she lost her home in a fire, and they bought a new home. I don't know, like half mile, 3/4 of a mile down the road. And it's on the Silverado golf course. So they were on one side of the road. The new place is on the golf course on the other side of the road. The cat found her. Her Majesty Queen Lily White Paws, the 42nd. Reen has a great sense of humor. So Blackie found her after several months. And he is the indoor cat currently. There's another cat who's actually owned by neighbors, but who basically lives with Nancy, who's called Catface. He's got the cutest, cat face. And, but he's pretty, he was a feral cat. And, he's got the clip in his ear showing that he was adopted and spayed or neutered. And so the two of them fight all the time. But as Nancy says, at night when they're both on my bed, they're both happy. So her husband died, and there's plenty of room for 2 kitties. And before that, she had a cat called Outdoor, who again had adopted her, but lived outside because previous to Outdoor, a cat that had been outside became indoor. And just like Blackie and Catface, Indoor was very protective of his indoor status. And I don't think Outdoor ever made it indoor. He came inside, but he wasn't a permanent resident. So any pet of Nancy's is a well-loved cat, but she says she's tired of being adopted by these crazy boy cats. Anyhow, I love cats. Haven't had one since 1983 or 84. Wow, Lily is an indoor cat now. She lived outside for at least 4 years. Yeah, they're pretty. I used to watch the rescue videos. How pathetic. So I haven't had a cat since 1984. mostly by choice. When I think about having a cat box, I just can't do it. Mitch is not a big fan, and cats are always a big fan of him. So it's best not to have one. And we travel a lot, so I don't want to get a cat and then be constantly having to find somebody to take care of them. So if I ever turn into a housebound old lady, maybe by myself, I'll maybe get a cat. Um, get somebody else to clean the box. So I see I have talked for almost 45 minutes again. So I guess I'm done with fillable forms for today because Mitch and I are going to talk about our scheduling for the remainder of the spring. Spring hasn't actually started, but oh yeah, so this is a sweater I bought. Let's see if I can. And I only ever buy sweaters if there's something that like I'm not ever gonna do. So this is cotton and rayon, and I liked that it was different. And let's see, let me take this out of my stand and I'll show you what it looks like. It used to look better on me. Everything used to look better on me. So then that's the bottom, and it's asymmetrical, so it's longer on the right side than it is on the left side. And so we're having that a very typical moment in a Pacific Northwest spring where it is pretty nice. It's around the low 50s during the day. And so it's just warm enough that I can't like wear a wool sweater because I will internally combust when I have a hot flash. So I'm wearing like a cashmere tank top under this to make it warm enough. And then I put this on just because it went with nice color scheme. So this is a pattern that I have to say, I wanted it to be like a kerchief, but it's kind of not quite big enough. It drives me crazy. But it does have these super cute buttons on it. And they're little birds. And then I have these loops so that you can see back here. I've looped it through and tied it so that you don't lose your, I love those little funny embellishments. So anyhow, 4:59, I think I should sign off. Thank you for coming. I will do the video tomorrow, and it's really fun. Part of the process of doing it is I put it through, I put it up on Vimeo to do whatever it does. And AI cuts out, you can ask AI to cut out all of your ums and your extended pauses. So I cut that out. It sometimes takes like 5 or 10 minutes out of the video, depending upon how quickly I've been speaking. But it's very fun to watch it do that. So I always do that, figuring that most people probably don't want to watch that. So I'm also trying to, or it sends them to YouTube. It turns out I have 3 YouTube channels, and trying to get up to the right one has been difficult, but that was another thing I worked on this week because there's always something. So have a wonderful weekend, and I hope the weather is decent wherever you are. If not, stay warm and happy knitting. Bye.